The morning sun cast long shadows across my front porch as I sipped my coffee, enjoying the peaceful silence of my 5-acre property. I bought this land 3 years ago, back when it was just empty fields on the outskirts of town. No HOA, no restrictions, just pure freedom. That's exactly what I'd wanted after 20 years of city living. My phone buzzed. It was Marcus, my best friend since college, now the county governor. "Hey, stranger," I answered. "What's got you calling so early?" "Sarah, I need to ask you something odd," Marcus said, his tone curious. "I'm looking at an invitation to a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a new community garden and dog park. The address listed is 4782 Meadowbrook Lane. Isn't that your property?" My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. "What?" "Yeah, the Willows Edge HOA is hosting it, this Saturday at 10. There's even a press release about how they're beautifying the neighborhood entrance with native plantings and a community gathering space." Ice flooded my veins. "Marcus, I'm not part of any HOA. This land was unincorporated when I bought it, and nobody asked my permission for anything." There was a pause. "Well, this just got interesting. Want some company on Saturday?" I was planning to attend anyway. County support for community initiatives and all that. But now I'm very curious about what's actually going on. "Please come," I said, my mind already racing. "I have a feeling I'm going to need a witness." The next few days crawled by as I did my research. I pulled out my property deed, my survey maps, and my title insurance. Everything confirmed what I already knew. My 5 acres were mine, free and clear, with no HOA covenants attached. The Willows Edge HOA had been formed 2 years ago when a developer built a subdivision on the adjacent property, but my land had never been part of it. On Friday afternoon, I drove past a disputed area, the front corner of my property that bordered the main road. My stomach dropped. They'd been busy, very busy. Where there had once been natural grass and wildflowers, I now saw fresh mulch beds filled with ornamental grasses and flowering shrubs. A split-rail fence outlined a designated dog park area, complete with way stations and a water fountain. Benches sat at neat intervals. A wooden sign read, "Willows Edge Community Garden and Park," in elegant script, and in the center of it all stood a small podium draped in burgundy cloth, clearly prepared for tomorrow's ceremony. It was beautiful, professional, and completely unauthorized. I took photos from every angle, my hands shaking with anger. They'd treated my land like it was theirs for the taking. How long had they been working on this? How had I not noticed? I knew the answer to that last question. This corner of my property was the farthest from my house, separated by a thick line of trees. I rarely walked down here. They'd counted on that. Saturday morning arrived with perfect weather, clear skies and a gentle breeze. I dressed carefully in jeans and a nice blouse, wanted to look like the landowner I was, not someone who could be easily dismissed. Marcus arrived at 9:30, dressed in business casual. "Ready for this?" he asked, his brown eyes sharp with interest. "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied. "Let's go." We walked down to the disputed corner together, following the sound of voices and light music. As we rounded the trees, I saw at least 50 people gathered on my land. Folding chairs had been set up in rows. A string quartet played softly. Someone had even brought a catering table with refreshments. At the center of it all stood a woman I recognized from neighborhood Facebook groups, Patricia Kensington, president of the Willows Edge HOA. She wore a cream pantsuit and a smile that belonged on a politician. Next to her stood a man with a large ceremonial ribbon and oversized scissors. Patricia was mid-speech when she noticed Marcus. Her eyes lit up with triumph. "And we're so honored," she gushed, "to have County Governor Marcus Chun here to help us celebrate this momentous occasion. Governor Chun, would you please join me at the podium?" Marcus gave her a professional smile, the one I'd seen him use on people he was about to disappoint. "Of course, Patricia. But first, I have a question." He walked toward the podium with the easy confidence of someone who commanded rooms full of people for years. I followed, staying close to his side. The crowd's attention shifted to us. "This is a beautiful space you created," Marcus said, his voice carrying clearly. "But I'm confused about something. According to county records, This property is owned by Sarah Mitchell. That's Sarah right there. He gestured to me. Sarah, did you get permission for this project? The color drained from Patricia's face. What? No. This is HOA common area. We have the plans right here. Then perhaps you could show me the deed that establishes this as HOA property? Marcus asked pleasantly, because the deed I'm looking at shows this entire parcel belonging to Ms. Mitchell with no HOA covenant attached. I stepped forward, pulling out my phone. I have photos from 3 months ago showing this area exactly as I left it, natural grassland. I never authorized any construction, landscaping, or improvements. I certainly never agreed to host an HOA facility on my private property. Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. The man with the scissors slowly lowered them, looking uncomfortable. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. There must be some mistake, Patricia finally stammered. The developer assured us this land was part of the HOA. We have architectural plans. We've been working with the landscape company for months. We've invested over $30,000. $30,000 of unauthorized improvements on someone else's property, Marcus said, and now his voice had an edge. Patricia, as county governor, I have to tell you this is a serious legal issue. This is trespassing, destruction of property, possibly even theft, depending on how the courts view it. But we were trying to improve the neighborhood. Patricia's voice rose in pitch, defensive and desperate. We wanted to create a gathering space to increase property values. Sarah's land was just sitting there unused. You thought you could take what wasn't yours. I interrupted, my own anger finally breaking through. You didn't bother to check ownership. You didn't ask permission. You just decided that because I wasn't using this corner of my property the way you wanted, you had the right to take it. An older man in the second row stood up. Patricia, you told us this was approved. You said you'd handled all the paperwork. I had handled it. Patricia insisted. The developer said, The developer lied to you, Marcus said flatly, or you misunderstood. Either way, you build on private property without authorization. That's on you and your HOA board. I watched Patricia's face cycle through emotions, shock, anger, fear, and finally something like calculation. She turned to me, and her expression shifted into what I'm sure she thought was a reasonable smile. Sarah, we're neighbors. Surely we can work this out. The project is already done. It's beautiful. Why don't you just donate this corner to the HOA? It's such a small piece of your land, and it would benefit everyone. You get a tax write-off. No. The word came out harder than I'd intended, but I didn't soften it. This is my land, I continued. I chose it specifically because it had no HOA. I don't want to be part of your association. I don't want to donate my property. And I certainly don't appreciate you treating my land like a blank canvas for your pet projects without asking. Patricia's mask cracked. You're being unreasonable. We've created something valuable here. Are you really going to force us to tear it all down? Do you know how much that will cost? That's not my problem, I said. You should have thought about costs before you build on property. That wasn't yours. Marcus pulled out his phone. Patricia, I'm going to strongly suggest you contact your HOA attorney immediately. Ms. Mitchell has several options here, including pressing criminal charges and filing civil suits. If I were you, I'd be focusing on damage control. Criminal charges? Patricia's voice went shrill. Over a garden? You can't be serious. Over $30,000 worth of unauthorized construction on private property. Marcus corrected. Yes, I'm very serious. This isn't a neighborhood dispute. This is a legal matter. The crowd was buzzing now, everyone talking at once. I saw people pulling out their phones, some recording, others texting. Patricia's face had gone from white to red, her hands clenched at her sides. Fine, she spat. We'll remove it, all of it. But don't expect any help from your neighbors when you need it. You've made it very clear you don't care about this community. I care about my property rights, I replied evenly, and I expect my neighbors to respect those rights. If that's too much to ask, then I question what kind of community you've actually built. Marcus placed a hand on my shoulder. I think we're done here. Patricia, You have my office number if your attorney wants to discuss this through proper channels. Sarah, shall we go? As we walked away, I heard Patricia trying to salvage the situation, her voice bright and false as she told the gathered crowd that there had been a simple misunderstanding and refreshments were still available. But the damage was done. The whispers and shocked conversations followed us all the way back to my house. Inside, I collapsed onto my couch, adrenaline draining away and leaving me shaky. "You okay?" Marcus asked, sitting beside me. "I can't believe they thought they could just take my land. People get entitled," Marcus said. "They convince themselves that their vision is more important than other people's rights. You did the right thing. Sarah, if you let this slide, they have kept pushing boundaries." My phone started buzzing with Facebook notifications. The video was already spreading through local groups. By evening, Patricia had posted a formal apology on the HOA page, and I'd received a call from their attorney offering to restore my land at the HOA's expense and cover any damages. 3 weeks later, my property corner looked like it always had. Natural grass swaying in the breeze, wildflowers dotting the landscape. The HOA's $30,000 mistake had been erased, along with the presumption that my land was theirs for the taking. Marcus came by that weekend with barbecue and beer. We sat on my porch, looking out over my 5 acres of beautiful, HOA-free property. "Best ribbon-cutting ceremony ever," he said, raising his bottle. I clinked mine against his. "Thanks for having my back." "Always," he grinned. "That's what governors are for."